Salute Raider Nation. We are back and we got a fire one for you ahead. Stay tuned. Salute Raider Nation. Welcome to the Raiders Primos podcast. I am your host, Raider Ed, and today we got a couple of guests. One of them showed up. The other, he's on his way. We're waiting on him. He's going to be pulling up shortly. But I got my guy, Severe, in the building. Severe, how is it going, man?
It's going better than the Raiders is going, I'll tell you that way. That much right now. Yeah, man. But, hey, everything at this point, man, like I said, man, it is what it is with the Raiders, bro. I don't even get mad no more. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, I felt that. I think week 5, week 6, when we lost to Denver, I was just like, yeah, I had no emotion. Like, I seen people getting mad and all this. I'm like, bro, I'm not even mad at this point.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be excited about. But yeah, you guys, welcome on into the Raiders Primos podcast. Let me give our salutes. We got Sean Johnson in the building. He says, salute. Let's have an epic show. Oh, we are going to have an epic show, Sean. And he is the Ian Rappaport of Raider Nation. He was sending me intel already on draft. It's sad that we're here, but he was already sending me intel on quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Also, salute to East Coast Gridiron that also is putting out his content because I follow him on IG. If you guys do not follow East Coast Gridiron on Instagram, he basically breaks down all of the draft prospects coming out next year. The numbers, salute to you, man. It's been a minute. We got Sacktown Raider Mike saying salute to Severe, salute to Raider Ed. But yeah, you guys, we're going to break it down the first half of the 2024 Las Vegas Raiders season. And Severe has been disappointment. It's been disappointment. We were drinking the Kool-Aid. At least I was drinking the Kool-Aid, thinking, okay, we could ride the defense. The offense doesn't really have to do too much. I was trying to believe that Luke Getsy, hey, maybe a change of scenery would have been better. And then seeing what Gardner Minshew did with the Indianapolis Colts with what we thought had less talent on that team. He comes over here. We thought Zamir White would, basically continue what he did at the end of the season. You bring in a Brock Bowers to pair up with Devontae Adams. Trey Tucker looked like he was getting a lot of compliments in camp. It seemed he was going to take that next step. And yes, it seems like I'm harping on the offense because really we thought we knew what this defense was going to be. We're going to talk about them later in the show. But yeah, Severe, give me your thoughts, man, on just the offense as a whole. And really, I mean, they've been the story of the 2024 Raiders, really. Just the disappointment and going into the season and then where you are now.
Yeah, man, coming into the season, I think we all understood that the offense was going to be, hit or miss, right? We were hoping that we wouldn't have to depend on the quarterback, whether the starter was Aiden O'Connell or whether the starter was Gardner Minshew. We understood that they're both highly flawed. Well, I think most of us understood that both were highly flawed. I think some people had outsized expectations of what they thought Aiden O'Connell was. I remember all offseason, the AOC for MVP hashtags, those motherfuckers disappeared real quick. So I don't look at it all no more. So wherever y'all at, hope y'all remember that. But we saw what Gardner was able to do last year with Shane Steichen and Indianapolis Colts, and what I think was in terms of skill positions, a less talented team. But what we didn't account for was two things. First of all, Indianapolis still has a better offensive line than we had, and then also Shane Steichen was with Gardner Minshew in Philadelphia. So Gardner Minshew already had a very intimate understanding of that offense. So it wasn't that same type of learning curve that he was going to have coming over here to a new system with Luke Getsy. And I think that is one of the biggest things that, I didn't pay attention to. I think a lot of people on Raider Nation didn't pay attention to. If you look at Gardner Minshew's career as a whole, he averages like a little more than half an interception per game, right? So he basically like about 8.5 interceptions a season, right? Or over 17 games, which is good. Like, it's not bad. It's pretty good. Like he had like set in the record books with guys like Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes in terms of most pass attempts gone without X amount of interceptions and all that stuff. And then he comes here, and all of a sudden he is a turnover machine. And I think part of that is because our run game didn't get going, and part of the reason our run game didn't get going is because we have absolutely no push in the run game, no matter who's the back, right? We thought it was Amir White. It was, let's put in Alexander Madison. Alexander Madison was trash. So at that point, you have to realize it's partially scheme, partially personnel. So I think that it's just been a whole lot of stuff going on that, that like we needed things to line up a certain way for this team to have success, especially offensively, and none of them lined up.
Yeah. Before I give my take on this, yes, Sacktown Raider Mike, to all the veterans, salute to every single veteran. Celebrating Veterans Day today. It is their day. And yes, every day is their day. Thank you for what you guys do. Thank you for your sacrifice. Any veterans of the Raider Nation, we thank you. And I'm just grateful that you guys are putting your life on the line for us. The number says it all went bad with the Luke Getsy firing, and I tried, and I want to say that's where it started for me, because I tried to drink the Kool-Aid. I was like, he sucked in Chicago. Like, what makes us think that it's gonna go right with us? And then, people were saying, oh, it's good. His run game was good in Chicago. You brought it up, Severe. Tie that to Justin Fields, because Justin Fields was the leading rusher with Chicago during the time with Luke Getsy. And I think someone pointed out that if you minus Justin Fields from the stat sheet, that the Chicago Bears were like ranked 23rd, ranked 24th, instead of being a top rushing offense. So all in all, you put that together, Luke Getsy is not an offensive coordinator. Maybe he's a good passing game coordinator like he was in Green Bay. But as an OC, it was a terrible hiring, and I agree with the numbers. I think it all went bad right when we hired Luke Getsy. Other than Luke Getsy, because he's the obvious one, what other things that during the season that you noticed about that just went wrong for the Raiders? Because it seemed like everything from offense to defense to the injuries, getting hit with the injury bug, to even we'll talk about it, Antonio Pierce and his coaching decisions. It just seemed everything that could go wrong for the Raiders went wrong.
Yeah. I mean, injuries were a big part of it. The offensive line, like a big thing with offensive line is having continuity, right? Like of all the skill positions, the offensive line, they're the ones that have to really work together. There has to be constant communication, not only constant communication, but it has to be trust. I have to trust you to do this. That allows me to do that, right? And when there's no trust there, then that's when you start to have guys trying to do too much or guys not doing the right thing. And it started early on, right? We didn't have coaching early on. We lost Jackson very early on. So we were already out of the gate playing with backups. And then we try to just insert these guys in the lineup, like that same trust and that same chemistry and that same synergy, it just isn't there. And I think that led to part of our struggles early in the season, not only in pass pro, but in the run game as well. And in terms of Luke Getsy, I think he gets a bad rap. Is Luke Getsy great? No, he's not great. He's an average offensive coordinator, but we've made him look like a terrible offensive coordinator because of how bad we've been, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, I can't tell you, like, just going through the film, watching all 22, I can't tell you how many times, whether it be Gardner Minshew, whether it be Aiden O'Connell, whether it be some of the skill position guys that are like not doing their responsibilities, right? Like where it be a guy wide open or a guy that should be wide open if they ran a route at a proper depth, or if they ran a route the correct way and didn't round off a route, if they got east and west quicker. So, but part of that is coaching, right? Part of that is you have to get those guys to do those things. So I think the scheme might not necessarily been the problem with it, but just from the coaching aspect of getting guys to do what you need them to do on the field, I mean, I think, all those guys failed, which is why you see not only Luke Getsy gone, but you see the quarterback coach gone as well as the offensive line coach gone. Not necessarily because they weren't scheming things up properly, but because they weren't coaching and teaching things properly.
Yeah, no, and I'd noticed it week 3 when I went to go see them live against the Panthers. Like you said, with Gardner Minshew missing open receivers, so it wasn't to me, and that's what I've always said about Getsy. It's not his play design, because his play design, he can scheme guys open. Because when I'm watching, he's scheming Brock Bowers open. It's not his fault that his quarterback is not looking down the field and is focusing on the rush. And again, can you blame Gardner Minshew for that with the offensive line that's has not been blocking the greatest? So I was on our show with Nate. I had to play devil's advocate. I was like, can you really give blame to Luke Getsy? As hard as I've been on Luke Getsy, he was given Gardner Minshew, he was given Aiden O'Connell, he was given a offensive line that could not block for their lives. He was given an unproven running back that proved that he cannot run behind this offensive line. And he already had, I believe, a checked out wide receiver by week 1. Like he already, and so you give that, and because I had a conversation with my dad, and he said, let's think about this. If you gave Ben Johnson the same thing you gave Luke Getsy, will Ben Johnson have that success? Will Clint Kubiak have that success?
No.
And I would say it would look better, but would it equal to wins? I don't think it would equal to wins. Yeah. And all I want is wins. So either way, I was like, hey, you can't really get too upset with Luke Getsy because he was given a shit show on the offense. And we expected, it's like, okay, you make a shit show into a 10-win team. Yeah. You can't do that. Especially, we got to remember, going back to Minshew with Indianapolis, we have to remember what division we're in. We're not in Indianapolis division. We're in the division with the Super Bowl champions that have won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, with possibly the greatest quarterback that's playing right now. Right. That is why I always compare our situation to the Chiefs, at least quarterback-wise. You're playing the greatest quarterback twice a year. You're getting a front row look at what a great quarterback looks like. Yeah. And we're missing. We're missing with the quarterbacks that we're bringing in. You had Derek Carr going against him. You then brought in Jimmy G. You then had Brian Hoyer. You then have Aiden O'Connell. Then just to sit Aiden O'Connell to go with Gardner Minshew. That's average, below average, I would say, with Jimmy G, and a journeyman in Brian Hoyer, who shouldn't even been on the team at that point. Aiden O'Connell, who's a 4th-round rookie, and then you bring in a Gardner Minshew, who's been a backup at best in the league. That's not going to compete with the Chiefs. That's not going to compete with the Chargers. That's not going to compete with the Broncos. In order for us to make the playoffs, you guys, we got to focus on our division. Focus on who we're going against. We're going against, like, people hate talking about Mahomes. I hate talking about Mahomes, but that's who we're going against twice a year. Yeah. Like, it sucks. Now I feel I know how it feels to be Miami Dolphins fans and Jets fans and Bills fans going against Tom Brady all those years. Yeah. Like, that is who you're going against. And salute to we got him backstage. We got our guy Pharaoh pulling up. Pharaoh, how you doing, man?
What's going on, man? My bad. I'm late.
Pharaoh's trying to dress like Pharaoh's trying to pull his head out the closet like mine. He's looking for the matching hat. He's got to find it.
Damn. Hey, you got the A-frame. I see you. Okay. But hey, we on brand though. 50-50, man. Salute to everybody pulling up, man. We appreciate everybody coming through, man. Hey, my bad for the tardiness. Now I already know everybody's seeing me late right now. Now they're gonna be like, oh, now we know why the 50-50 show starts late. Oh, it's because of Pharaoh. But yeah, man, salute to everybody pulling up, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No problem, bro. Thank you for joining the Raiders podcast as a Raiders Primos podcast. It's we haven't had a lot of guests, so that's why I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to come on and just bless us with the presence of Severe and Pharaoh and talk some Raider ball. But Pharaoh, I'm gonna ask you this question I asked Severe in the beginning. Give me your thoughts. And yeah, salute to all the veterans before we get into it. Salute to all the veterans celebrating Veterans Day. I want to give my respects to them as much as I can. But going into the season, we were all hyped, probably drinking the Kool-Aid a bit, basically going based off last season. This defense, I was saying they're going to be a top 10 unit, maybe top 3 unit. They played that good in my eyes. But man, looking now 2-7. Give me your thoughts going into the season, and then give me your thoughts now that the bye week just finished up and the Raiders are 2-7.
Just on the overall team itself and what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really say that I was disappointed because back of my mind, like I kind of knew that, obviously, Minshew and AOC going into the season, like we do this like every year. It feels like Raider fans, we're known for like kind of trying to make the best of situations. Like, you know what? If this goes right and this happens and this goes right, then we can win the Super Bowl or then we can get to the playoffs. But in all reality, like if you've been watching this team long enough, you've been watching football long enough, you just can't win with the quarterback situation that we had. Defensively, I thought I really did think that we're gonna take that next step. But at the end of the day, injuries were big early on. Even when we were healthy, we couldn't stop the run. It felt like we early on. It was like for one half we might have been pretty good, and then you guys remember that first game of the season, second half.
JK went off.
Who's having a really resurgent season? Like he's a pretty good player right now, and I think he's probably earned him probably an extension because I think he's on a 1-year deal with the Chargers. But that being said, it just was downhill ever since then. I think the Raiders defense kind of rebounded a little bit. Like I think overall, if you just look at the numbers, they're ranked like 13th overall or something like that. But in reality, like we kind of know what it is. It's not the same defense that we seen finish out the season last season. So and we had high expectations when it comes to the defense. Quarterback, we felt like if everything around the quarterback was working well, we can make it happen. But it just didn't work out that way. And I think the defense didn't hold up their end of the bargain. We couldn't run the football. I know Severe's not a huge Josh Jacobs guy, but at the end of the day, like it is a big loss compared to what we have now. And Zamir, he's just an average running back. Now, to be fair to him, is it the perfect system for him? Probably not. But was the offensive line playing well early on, especially? Not really. But we'll see. We'll see, because right now until the season ends, we're gonna see who we have and who we should keep for the future. And that's how I'm looking at it right now. But I wouldn't say I was hugely disappointed. It was just like, man, no one wants to see your team lose at the end of the day. So
I would say, especially the way we're losing. I think that's the disappointing part for me, though. You guys, is the way we're losing. Like, I think I'd be fine if it's like, man, we're 2-7, but we're being competitive. Like, it's coming down to the wire.
Right.
These games are over by the end of the first quarter. Like, it feels like. And not saying like, because we were down 12-7 against the Pittsburgh Steelers at half. The reason why I be looking at the TV like, oh, it's over after the first quarter is the offense. Like, the offense just looks like you guys struggle to get across 50.
Right.
And I'm supposed to believe just one drive, you guys are going to just suddenly turn it on. And I think I had hope in that Baltimore game because I seen that and I was like, okay, they can turn it on. Whether it was too late, they still turned it on. They finished strong. And then going into that Panthers game, we were high. We were high going into that Panthers game because of the win. But after that game, I told shout out to Van City. He went to the game with me. I told him, I'm like, bro, this season's done.
Yeah.
Like, you can't recover from this. Like, losing to a team like the Panthers, you can't. And I spoke about it on my show. And the reason why it's so heartbreaking for me as a fan is because Mark Davis, bunch of people have been saying, Raider fans, like, y'all don't show up. Y'all don't show up. Bro, we did in that home opener. We showed up and we got blown out. Like, it looked like we showed up, but the team didn't show up. And I'm like, you can't recover from that loss. And then the season went as it went, and people I'm seeing on X and Instagram, oh, Raider fans don't show up. I don't know about you guys. I'm not paying $2,500. That's how much my trip cost to go out there, was close to $2,500 for hotel, flight, food, tickets. And I was sitting in the nosebleeds, section 330.
Man.
And I tell people, like, people don't just got $2,500 to drop on a trip, especially if our team is playing this bad. I'm not paying $2,500, but I'm still hurt by that. I'm still hurt by that because I was hurt because we actually made Allegiant Stadium home, And for all those fans that saying that Allegiant Stadium won't be home, blame the team. Blame the team because we will show up if this team is winning. But it's not going to be like Oakland where we show up even at a 2-14 team. If this team goes 2-15, they're going to have to earn us to go back into that stadium. Well, that being said, go ahead, Severe.
People weren't showing up in Oakland either. I remember, you're probably too young. I don't know how old you are, Primos. I remember there were times where there was local blackouts because nobody was showing up to the game.
Oh, yeah.
But
I remember that. My dad would tell me. He's like, they're not showing the right
game. No, I knew off the top of the stadium just because back then, like the league rules were different. So if you didn't sell out, I think it's like 88% was considered a sellout. You weren't sold out. The games were blacked out locally. So like there were people in Oakland that couldn't even watch the team on TV because nobody showed up to the game. And Oakland tickets was cheap. You could buy an Oakland ticket for like $40. So and nobody was still showing up. So they had to tarp off. So like basically, if the team ain't winning, people ain't gonna come. Like that's just what. No matter where they are, if you're not winning, people not gonna show up. So I think it's a little bit worse now in Vegas, just because out there the opposing team is actually showing. Like in Oakland, nobody would come. But now in Las Vegas, no Raider fans are coming.
But the new Chargers,
the opposing teams, they're still showing up. So they're packing out of our stadium. So I mean, I think it's just a bad look all around. But this is one of those things that need to happen, man. We've been trying to nibble around the edges of this nonsense for years. Like not wanting to, because people don't like to hear the term rebuild. They don't want to go through a tear down. We went through a little bit of one, when Gruden first got here. And if we had drafted better, we'd be in better position now. But they drafted pretty poorly overall. They found some diamonds in the rough in Max, and that they found Kuntz and they found Nate Hobbs. But overall, just terrible draft after terrible draft, and that put us in the position that we're in now. So I mean, I don't blame people for not showing up, man. Like, I can barely watch it. Like if I didn't have to watch it to do content, I'd find something else to do. I'd find a different hobby. So, I can't blame people for not wanting to spend, $2,500. I live in LA, bro, so I could just drive over there, and I ain't finna drive to watch these fools. So,
driving back home all depressed, bro.
Yeah, man. My heart goes out to you, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, and I speaking to what Severe just said. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I know all about them blackouts, and that's how I got all too familiar with like Greg Papa. So for a lot of people who are like, who cares about Greg Papa? The reason why, how many games that I was listening to because it wasn't coming on TV. I'm like, damn, man. Like, I hated those rules. But by the way, you just want to watch the game. Like, who cares? But at the end of the day, like, you're right, man. I think Vegas is presenting a different problem just because at the end, they don't have their own fan. It's a completely different market. And if you don't win, hey, I think it makes sense. You shouldn't be going to the games. But here's the thing that Mark Davis is and the Raiders are getting away with is opposing fans coming in and buying these tickets.
Yeah.
Which is just ugly and disgusting. I'm not gonna lie, man. The fact that I'm glad you kind of brought up the point that how much money that you had to spend to go to these games, like that's on Mark. Let's get on. Like, man, we recently or shout out to Around the Shield, man. We do that every Friday with Big Mike and Severe, and we had a big discussion about like Mark Davis and his role in the Raiders kind of having issues again. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like you got one side of the fan base. You got I wouldn't say it's that bad. I don't think it's like a Derek Carr situation with AP, but there's some people, some of the fan base who are kind of out on AP. But then you got another fan base, give them another year. But if you think about it, this all started because Mark Davis gave him that opportunity that early in the season. You can disagree. I've kind of made a point like, hey, if you're gonna be all in on AP, then you can't fire him. Like if they fire him at the end of the season, then it makes firing McDaniels at that point in the season look so bad because we could have got a top 5 pick. If you think about it, the way the Raiders were heading in direction with McDaniels, it just felt like we weren't going to be winning the game. He lost the locker room. Just think about how that season was going. Imagine McDaniels, because as an owner, as a GM, you would think that like you're the guy that's thinking 5 years ahead, 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead, looking to the draft. The coach is going to be thinking the next game. So, I just think that Mark Davis needs to get people in the building to run this franchise and get it in the right direction. But I'm glad you brought up how much you spent, man, because them tickets, I ain't paying that much to go watch this type of performance out of this team.
Very, very disappointed. I want to shout out that Raiders fan. This is a good topic of discussion. Perhaps this shit season is a bless for the future, assuming we get Sanders and more top talent in the draft. And yes, we're going to discuss it. Road to a top 3 pick. It's disgusting to even make it our title. But right now, guys, the draft order, we hold the 5th overall pick. And at one point, we did hold the 3rd overall pick. But Tennessee ended up losing, which gave them the 3rd overall pick. Cleveland at 4, Giants at 2, and Jacksonville at 1. But me and Severe even brought it up. After us, it's still a lot of bad teams. It's Miami, New England, the Jets, New Orleans at 9, Carolina at 10, Dallas at 11, Indianapolis at 12. And you could argue Cincinnati, but maybe they start having late season heroics. My point being is one win can change your draft order. One win can change the draft order. And I'm going to tell fans this. Yeah, you guys don't want to tank, and you guys want the Raiders to still try to win. And if they do win, don't complain if we don't get a quarterback next season. I don't want to hear one word out of you guys.
Right.
That next season, if we do not get a quarterback because we won meaningless games, do not complain that we did not get a quarterback. Because I told Severe this. I don't want no excuses. I don't want to be like, oh, Washington wasn't going to trade out of the number 2 spot, or, Josh McDaniels. No, I'm tired of that. Go lose the season. I don't care. Go lose the season. Lock up a top 3 pick so there's no excuses for you to get either Cam Ward or Shador or whatever quarterback that you want in that building. There's no excuses why he cannot come into this building with you holding one of the top 3 picks. There should be no excuses at this point.
Right.
I think Severe Pharaoh, you pointed out that we were hoping that everything is going to be perfect for Minshew, for the quarterback around him.
Right.
When is the Raiders organization is like, you know what? We need a great quarterback to make the team great around him. Right. Not the team be great, so to make the quarterback great. I don't like that mindset. I would rather, and I said this when we traded Devontae. I'm not mad that we traded Devontae because what did having an elite wide receiver do for us? We're losing with him. And I'm starting to slowly, like, if Max starts saying that he wants to be out of here, I don't blame him. Because what is having an elite pass rush done for us besides losing football games still? I would rather take an elite quarterback over any other position. Right. And I may die on that island alone, but I would take a Shador. I'm not saying Shador will be elite, but if he is elite or Cam Ward's elite or whatever quarterback is elite, right, I will take them over any Devontae Adams, any Max. Of course, I would want Max Crosby. I'm just saying over Max Crosby. Because why? Because a quarterback will determine if you're going to have a good season or you're going to have a bad season. Look what we had. Minshew, bad season. Aiden O'Connell, bad season. Jimmy G, bad season. And let's be honest with ourselves. They're not great quarterbacks. Right. Look what the cheat. And I hate bringing them up. They had Alex Smith. And I always point back to that. They had Alex Smith, who you could argue was running that system very well in Kansas City under Andy Reid. Had him in the playoffs year in and year out. But they could not get over the hump of getting past the divisional rounds, of getting to a Super Bowl championship. And a lot of people didn't, when they picked Patrick Mahomes, a lot of people did not know what the Chiefs were doing. They're like, why are they picking Patrick Mahomes? They got Alex Smith. You have Patrick Mahomes sit, rest is history. When are the Raiders going to do that? When the Raiders are going to think to ourselves like, you know what, maybe quarterback is the issue. Right. You guys want to chime in? I'm going to get into some of these comments.
No, I wanted to chime in on I think the big reason is the infrastructure of the Raiders. There's always something off. There's always something missing, whether like, oh, we might have the right pieces, but then we have the wrong offensive coordinator. We have the wrong coach. We have the wrong whoever. I think there's always something missing when it comes to the Raiders. I mean, I think if they go ahead, and this is why this upcoming draft is so big, is because it's not just picking the quarterback. It's going to be the moves leading up to picking the quarterback, meaning that hopefully if AP comes back he definitely the biggest decision that it happened last offseason, but you've seen the impact this season. That offensive coordinator spot is going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
And because you can't just bring in a young QB and expect, he's gonna hit the ground running. That's just not how it works. You got to put the right pieces around. Obviously, we got some pieces on offense. I like the tight end that we have right now, Brock Bowers. Man, I think by next year, I think everybody's probably going to be considering this guy the best tight end in the NFL. That's how well he's playing. I think he at this point,
he's carrying this offense. He's the one bright spot.
Exactly. He's up there leading. Like at one point, he was leading the league with catches. I think with the bye week, maybe that might have changed. Well, but that being said,
he's getting close to 60 catches, I think, on the season.
Exactly. And this is in the halfway point. So he's on pace to get over 100 catches as a rookie. And he doesn't look like a rookie out there. He looks like he looks like a number one option, a focal point in the offense, which is perfect for a young rookie QB to come in. But as we all seen, and this happens all the time in the NFL. Like we'll look at it on paper. We're like, oh my God, look at the receivers, look at the tight ends, look at the running backs, look at all the pieces that we have in offense. But when come game time, it's a whole different story. I was just watching the Jets this weekend. I was watching part of that game, and I'm looking at this team. I'm like, they got Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams. The talent they have. Braylon Allen looks like a pretty good young rookie running back. Obviously, the starter, his name is I forget his name, but he's a beast over there. You know what I mean with the Jets. I'm bringing it up because on paper you would think that this offense would be amazing, but the reason why it's not is because there's so much dysfunction around the team in regards to like they don't have the right guy calling the plays. The offensive line, you would think that you would prioritize protecting a 40-year-old quarterback. Hey, shout out to anybody who's watching this. If y'all, any GMs, any fans of any other teams who have a 40-year-old quarterback starting, please prioritize the offensive line and protecting the quarterback. That is not going to equal winning football. But my point is that with the Raiders, it's always something. It's always they're always missing something, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's coaching. That's the big thing. And I think that in life, you can't take the shortcut. And I think and in football, you can't take the shortcut. You got to do every little thing correct in order for it to give yourself a chance. It's not even a guarantee. You know what I mean? Like look at how the Buffalo Bills developed Josh Allen. You know what I mean? They did every little thing that they can do in order for this guy to be successful. And guess what? It didn't guarantee it, but it gave him the best chance for it. And look at Josh Allen now. It's first couple of years, people were doubting it. And now he's one of the best QBs in the NFL. Everybody remember how he broke out in that third year. And I think that it's not just the Raiders too. It's around the NFL. Like teams are they're trying to take the shortcut to winning. And look at the Colts. They gave up on Anthony Richardson a year into the literally he was drafted a year ago, and now they're like Joe Flacco, who they feel like gives them the best chance to win now, is getting blown out or losing games, which it doesn't make any sense. But I just think with the Raiders, it's just the small little things, and I think they need to get the right people in the building. Hopefully that's Tom Brady. Hopefully Tom Brady could be that guy to lead the ship right, because that's the only thing that we could hope on, because Mark Davis ain't getting it right, and he's not going to get it right because that's not his level of expertise. Business wise, the Raiders are winning off the field, but on the field, I think they need to have someone in there, and I think Brady might be that guy, and hopefully it means more wins.
Severe, you want to chime in, man?
Yeah, Pharaoh talked about there's always something missing from the team. You know what that something is always has been. Take a wild guess what that something always has been. It's been a quarterback. It's been a quarterback the entire time. No matter what you have on this team, if you're bad at the quarterback position, you're going to be a bad team. There have been situations where we've been able to kind of, and we had one really good year of Derek Carr, 2016. Another really good year of Derek Carr was at 2021. Other than that, he's been a middling player, a middling to bad player. And everybody said it was us. It was a Raiders organization. Then he got over to the Saints. And what did he do? Went over there, immediately sucked again, and immediately got another coach fired. So it's always been the quarterback. We have not identified a good quarterback yet. And we kept passing on quarterbacks because we were okay with just being good enough at the position. Oh, Derek Carr is good. If we just give him one more thing, just give him this too. And if we just give him
what Pharaoh said,
we
build around the quarterback.
And no, your quarterback is supposed to be a force multiplier. He's supposed to make all these other things look better than what they are. Nobody thought Nico Collins was a number one receiver in the NFL. All of a sudden, C.J. Stroud gets drafted, and he's leading the league in receiving yards his second year. Right? Same thing with Noah Brown. Nobody thought Noah Brown was anything. C.J. Stroud gets there, he's balling. Like the Washington Commanders were a bunch of misfits. Jaden Daniels gets there, and they're one of the better teams in the NFC East. So it's when you have a quarterback that fixes a lot of your issues. But we haven't had a quarterback that can fix issues. We've had a quarterback who needed fixing or who needed something else in order to get to that next level, instead of being that guy that could just take it there himself. And part of that is just setting the tone, being a leader, being able to hold guys accountable, being accountable yourself. And we point to Anthony Richardson. I think that the death knell for him was like when you take yourself off the field, bro. Like that's like people lose respect for you. People lose respect for you. If you tap out because you tired, that's an automatic, bro. Like this, that's a Mike Singletary special. We can't do it with you. We can't do it. So you kind of put and in terms of the Raiders, we've just been unwilling to tear it down fully, right? And the one time we did it, as soon as we started to get some traction, and we would have had traction a lot sooner had we drafted better, but as soon as we started to get some traction, obviously we all know what happened with John Gruden and the emails and the NFL, and that was probably like the best opportunity we had to kind of, hey, you know what, we're going in the right direction. Even though I still think we probably could have improved at quarterback, but we were going in the right direction. We had a guy that, basically Derek Carr at that point was a puppet. John Gruden had his hand up his back, paws, and he was pulling the puppet strings, right? He was pulling the puppet strings, and that's all Derek Carr was. He was a wind-up toy that John Gruden was able to, hey, program you and do this. And we hear it all the time. I think I brought up this before. There was a time where like there was a guy who, I want to say it even happened this year too. That's what makes it so bad. Where like a guy picked off Derek Carr. Derek Carr's like, he's not supposed to do that in that coverage. Like, he's playing football, Derek Carr. Like this is not robotic. Like they're allowed to do different things. They're allowed to make plays and read what you're doing and do things to counter what you're doing as well. Like Derek Carr is never a guy that's like a natural football player. He's a guy you program and he gets a system and he's going to operate within the confines of that system, but he's not a guy that's going to like be he's not going to be a system. Like Josh Allen, he is a system. Lamar Jackson, he is a system. Patrick Mahomes, he is a system. CJ Stroud, he is. Like these guys are systems. You put them other places, they will find ways to have success. You put Derek Carr outside of a John Gruden offense, and he's trash. And we saw it this year and last year as well. So, until we fix the quarterback position, nothing else matters.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, go ahead, Pharaoh.
No, I was just going to sum up what I pretty much was saying is that the Raiders need consistency, they need development, and they need talent. And development comes from coaching, talent. Obviously, Severe just summed it up perfectly with quarterback, man. We need a quarterback, and obviously we need pieces around that quarterback to succeed.
Yeah, and Jonathan Studios, it seems he's actually clapping back at this. He says, team ready to draft a quarterback 1 is Washington. Team not ready to draft a quarterback is Chicago. If we draft Sanders or Ward, you're basically setting them up to be David Carr 2.0. You guys care to comment on that?
So,
go ahead.
Now, if anything, see this is what I don't like about revisionist history. Because when Carolina drafted Bryce Young number 1, everybody in the league said Carolina was a better situation for a quarterback. They had Frank Reich, who was an offensive coach. They had Adam Thielen. They had some other weapons, and people said that was a better situation. And then they said that Houston was a terrible situation because nobody trusted Nick Caserio at GM. Nobody wanted to see a young quarterback being developed by a first-year head coach that was defensive-minded. Their weapons were ranked dead last in the skill position. Not only that, but in the offseason, they lost several starting offensive linemen and a few second-string offensive linemen. And what did CJ Stroud do? Take that team to the playoffs and win a playoff game. Right? You look at Chicago this year and the Commanders this year. People thought the Commanders were the better situation. They thought the Commanders were a better situation. And actually, I got the backwards. Thought Chicago was a better situation because they had got rid of Luke Getsy. They had Eberflus had been there for a while. And then they brought in DJ Moore. They had Cole Kmet. They had brought in Keenan Allen, and then they drafted Rome Odunze. So it's not about what you have around the guy. Sometimes it's just the guy. And I pointed out before the draft, I had Caleb as my third quarterback. People saying he was the best prospect in the draft. I said he was number 3. I said it wasn't a talent issue. It was a leadership and an intangibles issue. And he's a guy that's not good with adversity. We saw that at SC, and that's proven to be true now. He's a guy that can't deal with adversity well. He's not that great of a leader, and teammates don't really respond to him well. It happened in college, and it's happening now. People didn't want to hear it then, but maybe they'll hear it now.
Right.
Yeah, DJ Moore out there checking out, walking off the sideline during a play. Like you're not wrong, Severe. He's quitting on his quarterback essentially out there. Like during a live play, DJ Moore quit on his quarterback. And does it go back to Caleb Williams? Like that's the thing. Big Heck says we need to solidify our offensive line before we get that quarterback. A key to quarterback having success is having protection from the offensive line. And I brought this comment back up because it's kind of my rebuttal to Jonathan Studio's comment. And that third year, people fell in love with Derek Carr. Why? Because that was his breakout year. But I said, look at that team as a whole. What did the Raiders do in order for Carr to have that success? That line was the most expensive offensive line in the league. And why were they able to do that? Because Derek Carr was still on a rookie contract prior to him signing the $125 million contract. That was the meanest offensive line I think I've ever seen. Because I wasn't old enough. I'm not old enough to remember the good old days of actual smash mouth football, but that was one of the best offensive lines. And I think, Severe, as much as me and you criticize, we all criticize Carr. You give Carr protection in the pocket, he will carve a defense up. And that's what he did in 2016. And so I agree with Big Heck, and I agree with everyone that says we need to shore up the offensive line. I'm assuming that's what they're going to do. Like to Pharaoh's point, you gotta put this quarterback in the right situation. And Severe pointing it out too. You got to put them in the right situation. Well, that's why free agency is for. You could go shore up that offensive line. You could address it in the draft. You could sign or draft a running back, which I think we should in the second round. Maybe third round, attack offensive line or attack wide receiver. It's not just, getting a Shedeur Sanders, getting a Cam Ward, and then boom, Raiders going to go to the playoffs. No, you cannot. And I'm a huge Boston Celtics fan. When we lost in the ECF last year before we won the championship, our general manager said we cannot return with this team next season. That's what the Raiders need to have that mindset. Next season, 2025, you cannot return with this team. Andre James should not be on this team. Zamir White probably should not be on this team. There's a lot of players on this team that should not be on the team next season. If we go into next season and we draft for Shedeur Sanders, it's like, Zamir White's starting running back. Andre James is, even though that's not going to happen because we got JPJ, Andre James is going to be the center and JPJ is going to be left guard. Okay, AP, you're just punching your ticket to get fired again. Because why are we rolling with the same team? Last season, it didn't work. And I feel another thing, Pharaoh, with the Raiders, that thing they're not really missing, but what they're doing is insanity. They're repeating the same exact plan that they have, or they're just doing the same thing over and over, and hopefully, eventually it'll work, right?
Where does it start though? It starts from up top. You gotta look at the foundation. The foundation is ownership. You know, the best teams in the NFL, their ownership is pretty stable. It's pretty consistent. They have structure. And that's kind of been my main thing with the Raiders is that, like, shout out to Al Davis, man, one of the greatest owners of all time. But he's a one of one. You know what I mean? The fact that he was able to be a coach, a GM, and then obviously eventually an owner, like you can understand how that team would have an edge and where it was able to win and create the Raiders' whole mystique. And we all know what the Raiders are to this day because of Al Davis. But now everything is equal now because now we have Mark, but Mark is just like every other owner where he doesn't really know too much about the game. But obviously he's the owner of the Raiders. But what he needs is structure, and I'm not sure why he's taking his time to do that. It's been over 10 or 11 years since he's taken over the team, and we're still having questions about structure on the team. We're still having questions of why would you hire? Why are you firing? Why are you It's just even if he says that he's not he hires people to have them do he's still kind of indirectly if you're firing and hiring people, you're pretty much you're close to the game. You're still making decisions. Yeah. You're still making football decisions, the same football decisions that you said you really don't know. You don't really know too much about the game, which is fine. Like we're fans of the team, but I'm not here to say that I know more than a scout or someone in the front office or whatever. All I could do is look at it from the outside looking in. But it's just so sometimes when you're looking at it from the outside looking in, it could be so obvious. And to me, what's obvious is that we're missing that direction that comes from up top and that structure that comes from the owner, and he hasn't really said it yet. Even with Tom Brady coming into the fold, all we know that is he's an owner, a minority owner, and
he's probably that he is going to have a hand in football operations. Apparently,
there's going to be an influence. So because I'm sure he has a lot of respect for him, but there's no official position. And I just feel like, why are we not going that route? Why are we not handing official positions? Like, Mark, you having a successful WNBA team. Like, it's crazy that we can see that. We can use that as an example. I know WNBA ain't the NFL, but what I'm using it as an example is that it's a successful franchise. He's won a few championships with that team, not because he was making decisions, not because he was hiring and firing people. It's because he hired the right people. He had the right structure, and he let it run itself. And when it comes time, he'll fire the person that he needs to fire, whoever he needs to. But I understand that every owner has to do that at some point. But I just feel like Raiders are always the part that they're missing is that structure, and hopefully we get that soon, now, like right now.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't want to look at Mark Davis because they're like, what does he do? For the team is bad on the field. He has no ties into how the team is performing onto the field. But I'm like, you're the one constant.
We just did an hour on this one. We really want to get into this again, Pharaoh. We just did an hour on Friday. We get into it again. We get into it again.
It's because look. I'm not trying to get into like the Mark Davis. I know this, like behind the scenes. I already know this, but like I'm trying to watch a game. I look at football as entertainment. I want to have a good time. I want to see the team win.
Yeah.
But back of my mind, I'm always like, damn, like why are we doing weird stuff? Like, why can't we just be normal? Why can't we just be, you know what I mean?
Like, my thing was, they're talking about hiring, like,
we always got drama every year. You realize that? We always have drama almost every year on some level. Like, why are we on, like, it's almost like it's on purpose. It's all on purpose, but
Oh no, yeah, and real quick, I mean, let's talk about some drama real quick. The Raiders recently held an uncomfortable team meeting, you guys. And let's discuss this, you guys, because Graf said it best, and it's funny because I think me and him kind of were on the same page. We're having more team meetings than winning football games, having more team meetings than actually playing good football. This is coming from AffluentSports.com. Things aren't going great for the Las Vegas Raiders right now. The franchise is struggling, to say the least. They're 2-7, being comfortably the worst team in the AFC West. Heck, I will argue the NFL. They've also got one of the worst records in the league. That means they'll have a benefit of a high draft pick next April, but for the season, it means they are going very, very wrong. As a result of that, the Raiders made several changes to the coaching staff. They fired Lou Getsy. Here's a source from Jones. This is Sports Jonathan Jones, according to CBS Sports. One source described the meeting. This is the meeting that they had. It was a coaches and players meeting. Jones wrote that he had a source describe the meeting ending uncomfortably for all parties. According to sources present, a few themes emerged. Players had issues with the schedule not being efficient. There was a lack of organization and quote unquote wasting time. And there was a lack of discipline and accountability. Athlon Sports goes on to write, now the team did do something similar last season. When Josh McDaniels was the head coach, the team held a similar meeting and things clearly didn't go too well from there on. Jones does make a point to note that the vibe around the meeting wasn't too similar to that. So he was basically pointing out that they didn't chew AP out, like how Josh McDaniels got chewed out. But still, hearing that, being uncomfortable, the players were having issues with the schedule not being efficient, the lack of organization and wasting time, lack of discipline and accountability. I will read that and I'm looking at AP, because what did AP do before firing Lou Getsy? You put it on your players that they were the problem. Execution, execution isn't up to par. It's a lack of execution. The players got to play better. And then right after the game against the Bengals, you fired Lou Getsy. You went right back on your word. And Severe, you care to comment on just hearing how it was described? What's your thoughts on the meeting that took place?
I mean, this is one of those things where I think, first of all, we just had mass changes on the coaching staff. So anytime you go through something that's that big, that could be potentially that like traumatic to, for lack of a better word, you want to have a meeting. You want to discuss exactly why these changes were made, the direction you guys want to go from there forward. And, also taking a look back at some of the things that went wrong. So, I mean, that this meeting is not a surprise. Like, you don't just fire almost your entire offensive coaching staff and be like, all right, guys, business as usual. Like, that's not like, that doesn't happen. Right. So, I think the fair exchange is I'll do the same thing. But so you don't.
Queen, I was like, damn. I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Let me just make this move.
Hey, it was funny because I was like, man, I don't got a black and red hat over here.
Queen got me when she says that's cute. When she said that's cute, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just be right back.
Yo, so
hey, get some lab, bro, Myra. Oh no, sounds like that meeting was as uncomfortable as it did. I just got canceled.
I would hope it wasn't that uncomfortable, but the thing is, like, you can't just make wholesale changes and then not say something about it, or not address it with the team as a whole. Like that's something you have to do, right? Like. Now, I mean, I don't know if anybody is a parent, like, or like if you guys, like, if you and your family decide to move to a new house, like you get your kids together, like, hey, you know what? Hey, this is what we're going to do. We're moving. We found a different place. You guys are going to be going to a different school. You guys are going to have to make some new friends. Yeah. That's what you do. Like, and that's when you're a parent, right? I don't got to tell my kids a damn thing. Like, I'm the dad. I do what I want to. But like when some things happen, you want to address it because you want that communication to be clear. You want everybody to be on the same page. That way, that alleviates any potential friction, or it gives people an opportunity to vent and speak their mind, and any emotions that they have, they can let it out. The issue I have is that last year we had this same team meeting, and the issue was those coaches were too strict. They were holding people too accountable. So what that leads me to believe is that this team they lack maturity and they lack personal accountability. They want to point the finger elsewhere. Oh, it's not us. These guys are too strict. Why? Last year, they're too strict. I can't even have my friends and family come on the field after a game. Every time we have a film session, they stop in the film. Every time we make a mistake and correcting it, they stop in practice. Every time we mess up and they correcting it. Now it's, oh man, these dudes ain't holding nobody accountable. Like they dudes messing up, they ain't even saying nothing. Like bro, y'all got to make up your mind. What is it? Are they too strict or not strict enough? Apparently, y'all just suck, and you want to blame somebody else for it. That's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Pharaoh, care to comment on the team meeting that the Raiders had?
I mean, the Raiders are losing. I mean, that's what happened when you lose a lot, and then players are going to try to figure out a way to save the season and try to have that, to just try to get the season on track. But I really didn't look at it as bad as, and just like that that report stated, like I didn't look at it as bad as it was with McDaniels. But that being said, I think in that report it mentioned something about the coaching staff. I think it said something about the coaching staff where the lack of accountability. Yeah. And it mentioned being
lack of discipline and accountability.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. That's a shot at basically AP and the coaching staff. You know what I mean? Without saying any names, it wasn't specifically to AP, but hey, AP's leading the ship, so he's going to have to bear some of that responsibility as well as the entire coaching staff. And look, you know what? We got to assume that with that being said, and with that being said from that report, and also we see the offensive coaching staff getting fired pretty much. I think the only offensive coaches that did not get fired were the wide receiver coach and the running back coach.
Yeah, which I don't know why the running back coach is still here. Like, I don't know why Cadillac Williams is still here. Like, the running back room hasn't been performing, so it's like if you're gonna clean house, clean it right.
Yeah, I think they point to the offensive line. If you watch the film, if you find a hole for somebody to run through, you point it out to me because I can't find one. So that's why the offensive line coach got fired. So but like I said though, man, like these same dudes last year were screaming that they were being held too accountable, and now this year, they're you guys aren't holding people accountable enough. Like you gotta, at some point, man, you gotta take personal responsibility for your own play. Be a damn leader and hold yourself accountable. If not your position group accountable, right? That's what it has to be. Like you keep wanting everybody else to do the job for you, or last year they were doing it too tough. So now, just why are you doing it so much? Now it's why are you not doing it enough? It's like it's never going to be like, it's like that Chris Rock. You probably don't remember. It's like that Chris Rock thing. We're talking about women ain't never happy. Like if you make all the decisions, why are you making all the decisions? I want to make some decisions too. If you don't make no decisions, I don't want to make all these damn decisions. Why you ain't making no decisions? Like right. you never going to be happy. Yeah, you're never going to be happy. Like this was just what it seems. Because just last year you complained about the opposite. So it's like, just take some personal accountability for your own play on the field, for the product that you're putting out on the field. It's you guys out there playing the game, and from the looks of it, it's a lot more execution than it is scheming. A lot more execution than it is scheming. Right. So I'm seeing guys not handling their blocking responsibilities, guys not getting the proper depth on their routes, guys not, guys messing up their zone assignments and the run. Like it's a whole bunch of, it's a confluence of things going on right now. And obviously, Luke Getsy is a guy that was the fall guy for it, but it ain't all on him. It ain't all on him. And we about to see that. We're going to come out like gangbusters probably this next week, maybe even one more week after that. And just like last year, the wheel's going to freaking fall off one more time, because it's if you don't have the mentality to be better yourself, you're looking for somebody else to do that for you, then that's the ball game right there. That's the ball.
Right. And you know what, too? I hate to say it, man. I don't like saying that he's right, but Mike Lombardi, I mean, there was a lot of truth in what he was saying last week. There was a lot of truth. It was a little personal. You know what I mean? He definitely, it feels like he comes out and always has something to say about the Raiders in a negative way, especially him and AP. Obviously, they don't really like each other. I'm assuming just because of, AP firing his son. But one of the things that he said was that, he mentioned that they needed to get someone in the building because players were going straight to Mark Davis and trying to, basically trying to tell their side of the whole situation, which I don't think should happen. I think that that goes back to what I said originally. We should have that structure, and I think that like Severe said, that we do have to have that level of accountability, and part of that is you can't create an environment where you feel like the players can just go to the owner and get their way, so to speak. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you got to play better. And also we need to have the right people in place in order for them to play their best. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, no, yeah. And Jonathan Studios, he says 2 things can be true. McDaniels was a booish or boorish coach who thought he was the smartest man in the room. And AP is unqualified and thinks he's going to rah-rah and friend the team to success. I mean, it sucks because I can't disagree with that based off what I mean. We talked earlier about Mark Davis not having set, jobs. Like, what is Brady coming in here for? They say he's having an influence on the offense. What is Marvin Lewis here for? What is Scott or Tom Coughlin here for? Like, they're mentors to you, or they're like another. I don't know why they're here. What are they supposed to be doing? And what's crazy, they have a headset on the sideline. I'm like, what are you guys even calling? And I just want, along with the firings, I thought, it was our game management coach or person. I forgot his name. I thought he was going to get fired, and I was hoping he got fired because I want to see AP. Let's do this your way. And so far, what I'm hearing is AP is doing this his way. Marvin Lewis doesn't really have a lot of, isn't telling AP, oh, do this. It's like, no, AP, you want it done this way? Okay, we're going to do it this way. But I just feel like there's too many chefs in the kitchen in that coaching staff.
Right.
That next season, like I said, you can't not bring this team back. Coaching staff, players, this team cannot show up in 2025. It needs to be a big overhaul. Going into the 2025 offseason, you guys, we know about Shedeur, we know about Cam Ward, but going into that second round, is there any position we're going to talk about? How can we improve that talent? How can we improve this team? Going into that second round, I mean, unless you guys got a different offer at first round, I think we can all agree we're going to go quarterback for the first round. Second round, where are you guys leaning to? What position you guys attacking? And if there is a player in mind that you guys want to, put on the map, give him a shout out.
Tom Telesco special. Tom Telesco special. Best player available, man. At the end of the day, I think that we can go a lot of different ways with that pick. If we have that second round pick, there's a possibility that we don't have that second round pick because the Raiders might be in a position where they need to trade up and get their guy. So I think that if we do have that second rounder, I think it's a situation where we can look at offensive line, we can look at corner, even safety, because Morrig is a free agent. Morrig is a free agent. Nate Hobbs is a free agent, which he's not a safety, but he's a corner. So, we have plenty of cap space, but at the end of the day, we don't know what Tom Telesco feels about the current roster and the players, because he didn't draft Nate Hobbs, he didn't draft Morrig, he didn't have any hand in bringing these guys in, and I don't know if it's an ego thing. Sometimes I feel like it's an ego thing that I want to get my guys in the building, but at the end of the day, like if they're a good player, you gotta keep them. And right now, the Raiders, they're kind of setting themselves up to have a lot of players that need to be re-signed, and it's gonna be a period of time. Like they're gonna have until the end of the season, until I don't want to say short period of time. I think it's like March is when free agency happens.
Yeah, it's around March. Yeah,
or around March. So there's that. So that you got to think about free agency first of all too, because usually when teams like to pick certain free agents to help them throughout, that's going to help them pick whatever positions throughout the draft, right? But yeah, I think offensive line, because I'm looking at Cole Miller. He's on his last year of the deal. The tackle spot. I like Glaze, but that left tackle, when I seen Thayer Munford in there, I'm like, whew. Yeah, you're never going to start. You should never go into the season starting on the left side. And I think Glaze, I don't think he's going to give up that right tackle spot. So Munford might be a guy that's just going to be that swing tackle guy, maybe at best. And then Colt Miller's going into his last year to deal. What type of money is he going to be commanding? Do the Raiders want to re-sign a guy that's 30 years old, over 30 years old? At tackles age pretty well, but you never know, man. Like I said, when it's Telesco, literally could be like, you know what? I want to get my guy in the building. I'm going to get more former. Y'all might not like to hear this. Former Charger players in the building. That could be a possibility. But I think for me, I think it's corner, tackle, and I told Severe this last week, man. I'm like, hey, man, if I know some people don't like to hear this, but we need a running back. We need a running back bad, like especially in this situation where the Raiders don't have a quarterback. I feel like having a good running back is like a great equalizer, because instead of having this quarterback drop back, you can hand the ball off, and if you have a dynamic guy back there, it can offset some of the weaknesses of the quarterback. And if we can get, and even if we have a young QB back there, there's going to be a learning curve too as well. So it's like we got to get someone that's talented. Can we get that guy later in the draft? Possibly, but if the best player on the board is a running back, hey, I ain't mad at it. In the second round, look at Derrick Henry, picked in the second round. Jonathan Taylor, picked in the second round. These are like one of the best running backs in the NFL. So if the best player on the board is a running back, I would kind of do it. But that's just me.
Severe, where are you going to? I mean, you know what? Hey, go into the entire offseason. I'll let you, go into free agency, go into the draft. How are you attacking it if you're Tom Telesco?
I mean, I think we probably need to address the wide receiver one position. Whether that be in the second round or whether that be via free agency. I'd rather not spend money on a free agent wide receiver. I'd rather allocate those resources elsewhere. So if that be in the second round, of the draft, I wouldn't mind going there. There are a few guys that are going to be there that they're going to be, like really good. This is a really deep, wide receiver draft, in my opinion. I'm leaving tackle alone, man. Just unless Colton Miller asks for a stupid amount of money, dude is only 29 years old, just turned 29. He has at least like 5-6 good years left in him, in my opinion. I think this first time he really was injured in the offseason. I think he's running into form. So I'd probably stay away from tackle, but corner. I mean, we don't know what's going to go with Jack Jones, and I think if we don't plan on having Antonio Pierce here, do not plan on having Jack Jones here. I'll tell you that right now.
Right.
If AP not gonna be here, Jack Jones got to go. So so corner could be a position that we have to look at. I'm holding off on running back unless you see somebody like special in the second round, where it's like, like Jonathan Taylor was like a special running back. Like people kind of knew, like Derrick Henry was a Heisman Trophy winning running back. Like he was special, guys. So unless we get somebody special in the second round, I'm leaving it alone. People don't like Zamir White. I think it's just poor scheme fit. I think we'll really see what kind of goes on. Last year down the stretch, right? Zamir White led the league in rushing and led the league in yards per carry those last games. Okay, so you don't just that's not like you just don't look into that, right? That's not like no very small sample size. That was over like 5-6 games. He had enough of a sample size to say that either this guy has talent or he doesn't have talent. I think he has talent. I think part of it is a scheme issue. We went to an outside zone scheme. Last year we had we ran some zone, but it was more inside zone. Joe Philbin is an inside zone guy, so we'll see what happens there. Last year, Josh Jacobs was trash, right? Josh Jacobs goes to a different situation and a different scheme. He's having a resurgence. Now, it's also with a team that's a much better offensive line and a better play caller as well, so that makes a difference. But even in the beginning of that year, Green Bay, they were splitting carries evenly between Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson. So it wasn't like they were completely bought in. Josh Jacobs is our guy. They were splitting carries between him and like a 5th, 6th round pick. And they had a third guy in there as well. So
bias here.
I think what happened?
I said it's a little bias.
No, I mean, it's just the truth of the matter. I mean, these are facts that are not facts. These are facts.
But teams always do this. They like
don't do that. They don't always do that.
No. They because look at the NFL. There's no like bell cow running backs that they're giving like 30-40 carries. What teams are doing nowadays, what they're doing is they'll start the season and they'll split the carries, they'll give it evenly, and then they'll have a couple of games where you're going to see like a running back get like 20-25 carries because they're trying to pay. They know it's a long season. It's a 17-game season, so you can't give a running back 30 carries every game. 30 and for you to say, hey, well, they're splitting the carries evenly because that's how they view Josh Jacobs. They just they gave him a contract. They gave him a deal. Like, why would you give him that deal if you feel that he's like, that don't make any sense? Like,
we gave they gave him a 4-year deal with every year non-guaranteed after the first year, so they can cut him at any time and not be on the hook for any money. So now, like,
life of a running back. Life of a running back. Life of a running back.
No,
the running back position has been devalued.
Saquon didn't get that deal. Derrick Henry didn't get that deal.
Saquon is more talented.
Back. They don't trust Josh Jacobs to perform or to stay healthy over the life of that contract. So they did the smart thing. Like I said in the offseason, when did Josh Jacobs play his best ball? When he was in a contract year. So every year Josh Jacobs is under that contract is a contract year. So you don't perform, you don't get paid. We chunk the deuce and get loose on you. So that's just how it goes. So that was them saying we have no faith in you to perform unless you're in a contract year. So that's how they structure their contract. But and you're talking about backs that are getting carries. Is Derrick Henry splitting carries evenly with anybody? Is Jonathan Taylor splitting carries evenly with anybody? Yes. No. These guys, is Joe Mixon splitting carries evenly with anybody? No, they're not. They getting
but you're comparing to running backs that are more talented than Josh Jacobs. Like, if you're being honest, you just brought up Derrick Henry, the guy like Mr. 2K.
Exactly my point.
A guy that he's probably if NFL Iron Man is an award, I would think that it would go to Derrick Henry based off the name Iron Man. Just because this guy gets like, I don't know, like how much carries does he average a season? And there's no drop off in his production. There, he hasn't hit that wall. Look, you can compare if you want to compare him to other players and see that, this guy is more talented. Yeah, we could do that. I mean, it's obvious. Like, I think Jonathan Taylor is a more talented running back. I think Saquon is a more talented running back than Josh Jacobs. I think Derrick Henry is a more talented. All I'm saying is that you made a statement.
Nobody said Joe Mixon is a more talented running back than Josh Jacobs last year. Nobody would have said that.
Joe Mixon is Joe Mixon is arguable, but look at the contract that Joe Mixon got.
Exactly. That's proving my point. But nobody thought that Joe Mixon. But what is Joe Mixon out there splitting carries? No, because they obviously.
I don't know.
He's not splitting carries. Check the stats.
I don't know. Where is Josh Jacobs with carries in the season? Let's look at the carries in the season. Let's see where Josh Jacobs ranks in the season. But go on, bro. I ain't trying to cut you off. I kind of threw you off, bro. But
like I was saying, it's just the point where, like, I'm not going to jump through hoops to draft no running back early. If a guy's there in the 3rd, 4th round, unless a guy is special, I'm not giving a guy I'm not giving a guy in the 2nd round. I'm not giving a guy that in the 2nd round.
Oh, don't know the guy severe like that, bro. Severe, you're bringing that heat. And to bring the stats up, Josh Jacobs has 158 carries, which is 7th in the NFL. He has 762 yards, which is 4th, and he's tied for dead last in touchdowns with 3. And he averages 4.8 yards a clip, which is 89th in the NFL. But that stat could probably be even skewed because you got back again like
my bad. Can you repeat the stats real quick? Real quick.
For Jacobs, the carries he has is 158, which is 7th in the NFL.
Okay.
His yards is 762, which is 4th in the NFL.
Okay.
And he's tied for dead last in rushing touchdowns with 3.
Okay.
And 89th in yards per
carry, which is 4.8.
Yeah, so
that's solid. That's good. Look, I'm not here to talk about Josh Jacobs. I'm here to talk about the Raiders at the end of the day. But yeah, man, my main point went with the running back discussion is that Zamir ain't the answer. It's just I'm tired of trying to make something into what it's not. I tried to make the quarterback situation into something that it's not. The running back situation, I tried going into the season. I said that biggest X factor this season was Zamir White. Huge fail. That was one of the biggest disappointments this season. Yeah. So I just think that we need to get someone dynamic back there. I think that would really help because we know we're going to get a young QB coming in. Whoever we get back there is going to be young, inexperienced. it just makes sense to get someone, a talented running back in there, because we can't have them drop back 40 times and expect them to be the next coming of CJ Stroud. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes certain guys take a little bit longer. We've seen that with Aaron Rodgers. He was a backup for Brett Favre until he was ready to be the starter. Jordan Love, obviously a backup, and we actually seen him coming in early on. He wasn't the Jordan Love that we seen today.
Yeah.
Like he didn't look too good in his starter experience before he became a true full starter for the Packers. But so certain quarterbacks, and I mentioned Josh Allen too. There was a first couple of years, people were like, "Man, what were the Bills thinking drafting Josh Allen in the top 10 in the draft?" But that third year came around. It's going to be a developmental process, and I hope that's what the Raiders are going into it. They're not going into it like, "Oh, we're going to get a young QB and we're going to have the greatest season of all time." Like, nah, bro. Like, if it happens, cool, but have a plan. Have a plan.
And it seems that's what they lack is a plan. And also to that Raiders fan, he says, "I like the running back from Tennessee." He's talking about Dylan Sampson. I like Sampson in the second round. But I gotta go for if he's the best running back that's on the board. Hey, I take him. I wanted to play devil's advocate a bit. If you do bring Zamir White back, I feel like you still draft a running back and let that running back take Zamir White's job.
Yeah, I'm not saying like, oh, just hand him the keys. Like it's like you got no competition. You're like bring in competition, but I'm not about to draft a running back in the second round. But all right, bro, this is second round wasting the seventh round pick on a running back. I'm not doing that.
Now, Big Heck says I like Ollie Gordon the second or Judkins at running back in the second round.
Gordon,
also,
okay, State. Judkins is Ohio State.
Yeah,
I like the other guy from Ohio State better.
Big Heck says if we don't get Kim or Shador in the first round, do they try to get Carson Beck in the second? If they do, we will be set back for 20 plus more years of losing.
No. I'm not doing Carson Beck. I'm not doing Carson Beck.
Yeah, all I had to see was that Alabama game, and I was like, do not stay away. Stay away from him. Stay away from him. And Jonathan says it here. Tankathon has us picking Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan, and then Carson Beck in the second round. Well, Tankathon is not the GM, and I'm glad they are not the GM.
Exactly. I mean, Will Johnson is a dog, though. Will Johnson is a dog.
Not with the corner, because I'm talking about quarterback. That's not the answer for quarterback. You cannot tell me like, okay, we're gonna change this around with Carson Beck at quarterback.
Early mock drafts, and at the same time too, like some of these mock drafts, they're not taking into consideration like the dynamic with the team, and how much they need a rookie QB and what they would do to get one. So we do. Hey, corner is a spot that I'm looking at. I'm like, hey, we might need to upgrade that spot because do we have a true number one on this team? Maybe is that Bennett?
Maybe JB. I
mean, he's playing like it, but
yeah, if he makes a summer league next year,
yeah. Shout out to the Dre for show. He says Curtis Work. Yeah, Curtis Work is a sneaky name. I don't think a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are talking about Ewers, Milrow. They're even talking about Carson Beck, and I'm like, man, no one's talking about Curtis Work. Like, that's crazy. But hey, come the underwear Olympics, as my brother Wasted calls it. We'll see. Maybe Rourke will rise his draft stock once the draft process starts going. Diehard Raider says, "What up to the panel? Salute to the panel. Salute to Diehard Raider." Austin says, "I got Jackson Dart above Beck at the moment. Might even have Alar above Beck, bro. I feel like any quarterback coming out next year might be better than Beck. Like that. I don't know about and." I only seen that Alabama game, but from what I'm hearing, he still is having trouble turning the football over. And that Alabama game was just ugly. 4 turnovers. And I mean, he came back and still almost gave his team a chance to win, but 4 turnovers is ugly. I mean, hey, Jared Goff could do it though.
Right.
He could have 5 turnovers and still pull out a win.
Yeah. And you know what too, Beck, the thing about Beck too, like outside of his talent is the fact that like he plays for Georgia. You know what I mean? That's one of the most talented teams in college football. So like if and when teams are looking to draft a QB, they're like, oh, man, like you're not playing lights out and you're playing one of the most talented teams in football. Like, I don't know if that's the right move.
Yeah. Let's dive right in. We also have a latest update. This is coming from the sporting news. .com. We have a latest update on Michael Mayer, expected to return to the Las Vegas Raiders. Someone did ask in the chat earlier, so I wanted to point it out. They wrote, after an extended absence due to a personal matter, Las Vegas Raiders tight end and former second-round pick Michael Mayer has an expected return date. Of course, Mayer left the team following the Week 3 game against the Carolina Panthers due to a personal reason. The latest update on Michael Mayer's return. This is coming from Vinny B. This came, I believe this was about 2 days ago. Vinny B said that Michael Mayer will be expected, or he's expected to be back next week. So I want to ask you guys, Michael Mayer's coming back next week. We had a bye week. He's joining Brock Bowers in new offense, quote unquote. I don't think it's going to be a new offense. I think we're going to see the same story week in and week out. But will there be any change to this offense with Scott Turner running the show now, and now Michael Mayer coming back? And we don't know what we have at quarterback yet, whether it's going to be Minshew or Ritter. AP has not made any announcement on it. Give me your guys' thoughts. We'll start with Severe on this one. But I'll have that dart ready if he starts speeding up. But go ahead, Severe. Floor is yours, bro. Floor is yours.
I mean, at this point, I really don't care, man, about him coming back. I mean, I don't want us to win any more games. So, like, him coming back is great. You know, it's basically practice for next year. But it doesn't mean anything to me, right? I think if we'd been back earlier in the year, you know, maybe we could have salvaged this season. I doubt it. But, you know, like, it doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter at this point. You know, I think going forward, I think him and Brock will make for a very formidable two tight end tandem. You know, I think those guys will kind of be the focal point of our offense, especially, you know, a young quarterback. You know, like young quarterbacks generally like throwing the tight end, so I think that can, you know, really help with their development a lot. But I don't see us, you know, making any I don't see that making any major impact.
Pharaoh, what do you think?
I'm just as a fan of the team and watching the games, man. I'm gonna be curious to see how he comes back and plays with Brock Bowers. That was one of the biggest things that I want to see going into the season, was how that dynamic of Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer and how the Raiders offense are able to utilize all the weapons that we have, along with Devontae. Obviously, Devontae is gone. And with Devontae being gone, I was like, oh, okay, now Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer might be put out to the forefront as far as our passing attack. We weren't able to see that because obviously Mayer, you know, he went on a little hiatus that we don't even know what's going on. We're all kind of assuming that it's some type of mental health type of situation. So, yeah, I'm glad he's back, and it makes the second half of the season a little bit more interesting because I am an expert in watching losing football. I'm the expert of watching losing football. Like, when it comes to watching losing football, you know, it's a different mindset. It's like you don't care about going to the playoffs because it's not going to happen. Like, it's all about expectations. When you're watching a team that loses football, you're going to be looking at players that can possibly help in the future. So guys like Zamir White, we'll see what he does in the second half of the season to bounce back, because now we have a new offensive coordinator, Scott Turner. The offense is not going to change, but he's going to call the game a little bit different. Joe Philbin, new offensive line coach. Severe alluded to earlier, he said he runs a little bit more of an inside zone. So it's going to be probably a little bit different type of run scheme. Well, the same run scheme, but a little bit way that they're going to call the run game. So that's going to be interesting to keep on. These are things that you got to pay attention to, small things, because it makes it a little bit more interesting in that way. And it's to me at this point, it's all about development in the future and who are players that can help with the future. I think, and Michael Mayer is one of those guys because he's on this team. He's on a rookie deal, and he's going to be on this team, you know, for what we know for the foreseeable future. And I want to see with that dynamic, that dynamic of Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. I'm not sure if Scott Turner is the guy to unlock that, but the one thing I will say is it's going to be less screens, because Luke Getsy, he will screen you until like a player will lose his play. Like, I mean, like, it's almost to the point where, like, man, you putting players in harm's way calling these obvious screens every other play, but he's now gone. So we'll see what Michael Mayer looks like a second half of the season.
Hey, Raider Nation, find you somebody that loves you like how Luke Getsy loves screen passes. Because it was crazy. Raider, is it Vision or I don't Vision? He said, let's be real. Telesco and AP need to go. I think this is going to spark another discussion. I don't want to keep you guys too long, so if it does get too long, let me know. But
yeah, it's good.
this might start another conversation. AP hasn't even announced who the starting quarterback is. Telesco's getting praised for Brock Bowers, but he could have traded up for Bo Nix. They just need a complete restart. I'm going to disagree here. I think maybe AP needs to. I'm not going to say he needs to go now, but if there's a better option at head coach, possibly if there's a way to fix that offense. I've said, Ben Johnson, again, that's if Ben Johnson wants to be here. I'm not saying he's going to be here. That's if he wants to be here. But Telesco, definitely no. Definitely no. I know Telesco is getting a lot of heat for the product on the field. He has no control over that. Telesco is the one bringing players in. He brought in Brock Bowers. He brought in JPJ. He brought in DJ Glaze, who a lot of people thought was going to be the worst pick of the class. And it looks like Glaze, is saying otherwise. I also put in perspective of this, you guys. Telesco came in having to rebuild what the previous regimes messed up on. That's bad drafting, as Severe pointed out with Mayock and Gruden. And let's not even get into the drafting history with Ziegler and McDaniels, along with the cultural and the locker room issues and the bad contracts like Chandler Jones's contract that is still eating us away. And Telesco finessed the hell out of the Jets. Why the hell do we want Telesco out of here? Like, he literally has the Jets paying all of Devontae's salary, and they're still losing out there, which is funny to me. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Do you think Telesco and AP need to go? Or are they a duo like Josh McDaniels and Ziegler?
I think that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say real quick. I was going to say that I think going into the season, and we talked about this before, and we said who would be on a short leash, Telesco or AP? And I think AP would be the guy on a short leash. When you hire a GM, it's not a 1-year deal with a GM. Like, that's just not how you run. I don't think that's how NFL teams run franchise. Like, oh, we're going to give you a 1 year, and that's the same can go along with a coach. But I could see a coach going before a GM. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That being said, it was kind of interesting that, Ziegler and McDaniels got fired at the same time, but that just tells you what that dynamic was and how Mark Davis hired them at the same time and fired them at the same time. So that's a whole different discussion. But as far as Telesco, I think Telesco would stay. I think Telesco, if it would have to be someone, AP would be the guy. And then Telesco, he's done a solid job overall. I think with the draft, I think that's kind of the biggest thing that everybody's just talking about is like, man, our draft looks pretty solid. The guys that we picked up are pretty solid. But if you had to attack Telesco is that he didn't really do anything to address his plan at quarterback. Mm-hmm. Like the plan at quarterback, what was it? Like, what were you? Because and the more you think about it, the more you're like, y'all knew that this team was not going to be good this year. Y'all knew that. You know what I mean? There's no way if in your right mind that to think that like, oh yeah, we're going into you don't even do that on Madden. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you playing Madden, you know what I mean? You don't even
admit you as my quarterback.
You don't even like if you went through season mode or whatever mode they got going on, like you don't go into the season. You try to find a way to get the most talented quarterback out there. And Minshew is not that guy. He's been a career backup. Then you have AOC who like most likely will be a career backup. You know what I mean? He was picked in the 4th round. And like you're gonna go into the season and sell it like, oh, this is what's gonna take to win games is with these.
And it's
guys.
not like they didn't have options, Pharaoh. They had Russell Wilson. They had possibly Baker Mayfield, even though I think he was going back to Tampa Bay. That was a lot. But you had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Now, of course, the hiring of Luke Getsy kind of puts you out of the running for Justin Fields, but you still have Russell Wilson, who could come in for what, $1 million, like $1 million, and the Broncos were going to pay the rest of his salary. You had other options there, and I agree. That's probably the one thing I look at Telesco is like yeah, he had a good draft, but there is other moves like you said, Pharaoh, where it's like, what's your plan? Like,
Right,
what is your plan?
I
But sorry
think,
to cut you off, man. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that, like, I think it, being positive about it is like, okay, this is a more of a long-term outlook. He's probably saying that we couldn't get our guy. So instead of settling for a guy in free agency or trading for a guy that he doesn't, or a quarterback that he doesn't really know too much, or even drafting a guy after the first round, which the Raiders had opportunities to do, which they didn't. They're like, you know what? We're going to go back at it the next offseason, and we're going to reevaluate that position and get our quarterback for maybe that's the way he's looking at it. But man, for a guy like AP, that sucks, because now, like, you're looking at this team and it's like they're not, especially offensively, like, if, like, with Minshew, almost, I think, I don't know if he's leading the league in turnovers, but he's at that position. He's turning the ball over left and right. AOC is not that much better. Like, if the offensive line wasn't going to protect him at all, so you already know what that's going to lead to. Nothing, a whole bunch of nothing. And then you got Desmond Ridder, who possibly could start. And if we're being honest, he's the most talented running back. Not running back. I mean, you might as well call him running back. But most talented quarterback on the roster. But he's not good at all either. Everywhere he's been, he's just been underperformed. He was with Atlanta for, I think, early on in his career. Went to the Cardinals, didn't make the roster. He didn't make the team. You know what I mean? I think was he drafted in the first round? I'm not sure if he was drafted.
Third round pick.
He might have been third, mid-round pick.
But he was a former starter for the Atlanta Falcons.
And the thing is, they drafted him to possibly, be the future in the organization.
Right. Which and you look at Atlanta, they got some pieces there, and they were never able to get that going. And the rest is history. He goes at the Cardinals trade for him. They trade for him. They used draft picks to trade for this guy, and he didn't even make the roster. He was cut. And that's why, like, when we picked him up, he was super emotional and yada yada yada. Like, I'm rooting for him. I hope he plays well, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna try to make it seem to y'all like this is gonna be a huge move, or Desmond Ridder is gonna be the quarterback of the future. But going back to Telesco, I think Telesco is a guy that's here to stay. Because it wouldn't make any sense. Like, was I a fan of Telesco coming in? No, I wasn't. Like, I didn't want no former Charger GM that was there for 11 years and they really didn't win a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the Raiders to pick their guy, their first time GM, just like every other franchise that wins a lot of games, and pair him with another first year guy. In this case, it was AP, but for some reason, it's been a theme with the Raiders. Oh, since AP's inexperienced, we're gonna give him an experienced GM, and then it just kept going. All these head coaches, all these former head coaches, all these experienced guys around him. I mean, how much experience at this point? Like, he's gonna have to learn somehow. He's gonna have to do what he had to do. But look, I think Telesco's here to stay.
What about you, Severe? All right, is Telesco, AP, tandem? Are they both getting the axe at season's end? If they are, like, or is AP going to be staying for another year? Do you think he's going to get axed at the end of the season? Because I agree with Pharaoh. I think Telesco, I think he's the safest man in Vegas. Honestly, I think he's the safest man in Vegas. But I think, AP has that short leash. What's your thoughts, Severe?
I think of the two, Telesco is the safer guy, but we all know, I mean, how, Vero talked about it before. We know how Mark Davis is if there's a coach out there that's a big name and he wants his own GM or somebody he's comfortable with at GM, Mark Davis gonna get rid of Telesco ass quick. Like, all right, bro, get your ass up out of here, pack your bags, you gone. So I think it'd be foolish for him to get rid of either guy. I think, like, we hired Antonio Pierce with the understanding that he is a rookie head coach, that he lacks some of the technical aspects of the job, and that there were going to be growing pains. Like, if you get rid of him at the first sign of trouble, what does that show other candidates? Like, people want to get rid of a rookie head coach to replace him with another rookie head coach. right? To replace him with the rookie head coach that has already stated, I'm going to be extremely specific about the job that I take. So why would that rookie head coach take a job where they just fired 2 coaches in 3 years, giving neither one of those guys really an opportunity to build anything at all, right? Neither guy had an opportunity to build anything. And then you have no quarterback. Like, why is one of these why is a Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson or the OC in Miami, like, why are any of these guys going to step into that situation? Like, knowing there are other situations out there that are better and more stable. Like, why would they walk into that mess? They won't. They're going to be, these guys, they've seen the writing on the wall. They've seen what getting fired can do to your career, can do for forever. Right? You can get fired once and you may never get another job again, ever. Right? Like Mike McCoy. Has Mike McCoy been a head coach in the NFL again? Like, he hasn't been a head coach ever again. He got fired once. And he wasn't horrible with the Chargers. He got fired once, never got another opportunity. Like, so some guys, you get one shot, right? Do not miss your chance to blow this opportunity. Like, you only get one shot. And if you don't knock it out the park with that one shot, you'll never get another chance. So they're going to be very selective. And the Raiders, why would they come to this team of all teams, right? Telesco, he inherited a roster that had talent on there, and I think he added some talent at some key spots. He also lost some talent at some key spots, and he didn't address the most important spot on the team. Or he put a Band-Aid over it after the head coach repeatedly said, I do not want a Band-Aid at this position. We are not going to have a Band-Aid at this position. And what did the GM do? The guy who was in control of personnel, he put a fat-ass Band-Aid on the position of quarterback. And it wasn't even a good Band-Aid. This one was like 99-cent store Band-Aids. As soon as motherfuckers be wet, they fall off. Like, he put one of those on there. You start sweating, like, your Band-Aid is gone. And that's what happened. As soon as we start sweating, these Band-Aids is off, and we have to go buy another Band-Aid from another dollar store. And ain't no telling how long this Band-Aid gonna last. So I think it'll be stupid to fire AP at this point. Could I see it happening? Yes. But I think if we do it, that we'd be making a grave mistake. Just because it's you have to stick with something long enough to see if it's going to work long term. It doesn't always work year one. It might not work year 2. Now, if you start getting into year 3 and you still ain't seeing no kind of progress, okay, then it's time for the guy to go. But if you give a guy 1 year and that's all you give him, I think you're making a mistake.
Yeah, no, and going into the chat, and a lot of people are basically kind of saying my argument. I guess I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here. Is a Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson? The reason they would come here is kind of like what Cliff Kingsbury did to us. I'm not gonna go to the Raiders right now because Telesco has no plan at quarterback. I'm gonna go to Washington, who has a plan at quarterback. The Raiders, unless Telesco's like, I don't have a plan at quarterback. Yeah, Ben Johnson's like, okay, I'm not going there. Bobby Slowick's like, I'm not going there. Also, someone pointed it out, comparing AP to Ben Johnson, AP got bolted into the head coaching position from a linebacker coach. Ben Johnson went from a positions coach from tight end coach down to being the offensive coordinator for the Lions to now possibly looking for a head coaching gig. And he's been an offensive coordinator, I think, for the Lions for 2-3 years now. And I mean, I don't know how long he's been in the league, but from what I understand, he's been in the league, especially with the Lions organization, for a while. He has a big resume and connections with coaches more than AP does. So that's the argument why a lot of people would bring Ben Johnson. But I do like the argument that someone else said, and it's stability. And it's the revolving door of head coaches that will break any quarterback that comes in. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we believe Derek Carr checked out. All the coaching changes around here, there was no stability. Josh Jacobs pointed that out too. There's no stability in Las Vegas. That the organization, it is dysfunctional and there's no stability. So I do agree that the only reason AP stays here is because of that. You're bringing him back because you want to try to have some stability in the building. But let's remember, this is AP's first head coaching gig. He didn't have to work for it like Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick are having to work for it by going up in the ranks. Like, have we seen AP as a defensive coordinator? No, we have not. The most we've seen AP was a linebackers coach. And because And also history is not on AP's side. A lot of interim head coaches that become full-time head coaches don't work out. They end up getting fired after that first season because it was a shit show that first season. And let's remember, Mark Davis hired AP. Why? Because of the players, because of the fans. We did this as fans. We're the reason why AP is the head coach. The players are the reason why AP is the head coach. And I mean, where do they go from here? I think in Mark Davis, I think Pharaoh, you point out it doesn't make sense if you fire AP where you fire Josh Daniels at that.
Right there. That's the problem. That's the problem.
It means Mark Davis, your hands are tied. AP is here. AP is probably going to be here because you're gonna, as if the organization wasn't more dysfunctional. Now it's just the Raiders have no idea what they're doing.
No, what I'm saying, the problem, it goes back to what I originally said. The problem is Mark. He's just too close to it, and it goes back to that structure of the team. Because why are you making decisions based off what the fans are thinking, what the players are thinking? Like at the end of the day, you got to make the best decision for the organization, the team, because you're going to be here, the team is going to be here. At the end of the day, you're going to have to think about the future, just in general. Like you got to think about where the team is heading out to, where they're going to go, if they're going to make this move, get this quarterback, whatever the case may be. You got to take everything in consideration. So when you hire AP, I'm thinking there's a plan in place. There's a plan, follow through on that plan. Like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. He gave John Gruden a 10-year contract. And the one thing I will say is that, how long did John Gruden coach? I think that might have been the longest tenured coach under Mark Davis. I think it was about like four seasons, 3.5. You know what I mean? 3.5 seasons.
Well, yeah.
Something to that effect. But he had 6 years. Yeah. And I wholeheartedly believe that, just because his trust in Gruden, he would have had him do that. He would have had him stay there for almost 10 years. But even in that contract, like, I don't even want to get into the Mark Davis thing because I know we had this conversation the other day. But that being said, I just don't even like the fact that we're listening to fans. And I'm a fan of the game, but I don't want. Hey, look, I might have an opinion on something, but at the end of the day, the people that you need to be trusting is not someone who watches every Sunday. Yeah. Like, as a business, you take that into consideration. But as far as football decisions, you want to rely on the experts in the building, the guys that get paid to do what they do. Like, why are you making decisions? And I know you alluded to that because I'm just thinking about like you brought up AP, but even think about McDaniels. Think about like when that whole situation went down, like when Mark is at games and fans are screaming in his face, like, and then you go to AP and everybody's screaming AP at the end of the game, and Max Crosby. That's heck,
I could go back. I could go back to when he fired Jack Del Rio after one bad season and hiring John Gruden. Like, yeah, that you're right for whole like this business. Like, you're making decisions that's like, who are you talking to? In the building, because I was confused. I don't know about you, Pharaoh. I was or Severe. I was confused why he fired Jack Del Rio after one bad season. And apparently,
to Pharaoh's point, the players didn't want Jack Del Rio back. Jack Del Rio had lost the locker room. They didn't want him back. So that's why he fired Jack Del Rio. John Gruden was the guy he had tried to hire the first time before hiring Jack Del Rio. John Gruden said no. And then basically Mark Davis came with a Godfather offer, and John Gruden accepted that offer. And I think that all goes down to Mark Davis wants somebody there he can trust. And, I think he had ties to Jack Del Rio. He trusted him. But he had, he obviously had ties and a good relationship with John Gruden, and he trusted him. And that's why he gave him the reins. People want Ben Johnson. We haven't seen what Ben Johnson can do without having an all-pro level quarterback, without having one of the better offensive lines in the league, without having one of the better wide receivers in the league, without having a very experienced defensive coordinator that they have over there, who's scheming up a hell of who won them the game yesterday. When Ben Johnson, his offense failed miserably with all the weapons that they have, the defense won them the game. So without having all of that stuff, to supplement and push him up. What is he really? People are all hot and bothered about Cliff Kingsbury all of a sudden. Cliff Kingsbury failed miserably in Arizona. Couldn't get the number 1 overall pick in Kyler Murray to get off Call of Duty. Now you want him to throw him over here with our number 1 quarterback? Like, come, like these, like it's people just say this stuff without like it. I don't know what the thought process is behind it. Like it's just throwing stuff at the wall. Like, you know, like all these same people wanted Antonio Pierce. They all wanted Josh McDaniels gone. I said you shouldn't have fired Josh McDaniels. Let it right out to the end of the year. And then at that point, you know, you start fresh. You go through the candidates. You do go have an exhaustive interview process and do it then, right? The 2 guys at the top of my list last year, Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson. Last year, right? Like before this, like, hey, let's go through an exhaustive process. This time, at least we gave our guy 2 full years. Then we can interview all these guys and then make a decision. But no, we had to get rid of Josh McDaniels because all the fans wanted him. We had to hire Antonio Pierce because all the fans wanted him. Now all of a sudden, these same fans don't want Antonio Pierce. Like when we had to, we all understood there was going to be some growing pains there, especially when you don't have a quarterback, especially when you lose your best player. Your second best defensive player gone, right? You lost your top receiver. You lost your left tackle at the beginning or for most of the offseason. You lost your second round pick for most of the offseason. Like all these things are acting against him in this first year. Let him come back with a fresh slate next year. Give him a clean slate. If he doesn't do what he needs to do next year, or if we don't see the requisite progress next year, hey, at that point, you gave him 2 full years. I think that would be good enough for anybody to say, you know what, they tried it. They didn't just cut bait and run after 1 year, and we can trust putting our guy there. And that's what agents are saying. Agents say we're the most dysfunctional, or we're the second most dysfunctional franchise in the league. Do you think agents are going to say, send their client here? I have one of the most prized head coaching candidates on the market. Oh, you should go to the Raiders. Like, why would they say go to the Raiders?
Right.
Why?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, well, let's start. We getting closing in onto 2 hours. We're gonna get into the chat a little bit. We're gonna get your guys' questions in just real quick. But we are gonna wrap it up, you guys. I've been holding on my guys for going on 2 hours. I feel so bad. This was a longer show than I anticipated, but good conversations that we're having though. This is conversations that I feel a lot of the nation needed to have. I feel like we needed to have. Damaha, I think that's how you say that last name, don't have a quarterback. Shit, we don't have an O-line or running back either. I think that's more credit to Severe's point. You want AP to make a shit show and again make it into a 10-win team. It's not going to happen, especially for a first-time head coach. Like I said, if AP is back, will I hate it? No. I think we do need stability, but again, if there's a better option out there, I know a lot of people don't like Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson. My opinion is because they have a better resume than AP does. But, you know, what do I know? Again, to Farrah's point, Mark Davis, don't listen to me. Do not listen to me. All right? Hey, talk to people in the building. Let's see. Let's get some more comments. Sean Johnson's in the building. He said Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden's duo is working out in Washington. So don't see where it's failing. Not saying Cliff Kingsbury is the best OC. There's better ones to play devil's advocate. And he also said, and I wanted to tie this into real quick point, is that is AP and Telesco on the same page here? Because AP wanted Jaden Daniels. He made it clearly. He wanted Cliff Kingsbury. He made it clearly. In the Tom Telesco was there in the introductory press conference. I want an offense to score 24 plus points a game. And Getsy comes here. And then you're bringing in Gardner Minshew. That doesn't sound to me like, okay, we're going to score 24 points a game. So, Pharaoh, to your point earlier, bro, y'all knew. Y'all knew this season was going to be a wrap. Yeah. But you can't be making decisions like that, though. Like, in my opinion, like, that's where me and Sean were talking. We're like, you know, it'd be funny. We lose out. We get a top 3 pick, and the NFL does some investigating to see that the Raiders were tanking on purpose, like, from the get-go. Like, I mean, that'd be the most Raiders drama offseason that it'd be like, bro, we can't escape nothing.
Right. Yeah, man. I think it's common. It happens all the time, and it happens in sports in general. Like teams tank. They don't tank like they don't come out and say they're tanking, but you just look at the moves, you be like, what are they doing? Why are they not super aggressive? Why they had an opportunity to get this guy? They had cap space to get this guy, but they didn't end up getting, or they didn't draft or address a position where we all knew was a big weakness, and they could have easily upgraded, but instead they went for Gardner Minshew and AOC going into the season, right? We see that all the time. But shout out to someone in the chat, man. They said they made a point like, hey, maybe Mark Davis and Telesco had a plan all along as far as what it is long term. They thought AP wasn't a guy that we'll give him 1 year and to see how it goes, and then we'll have a new coach come into the building. Because one thing to take into consideration is that AP was already hired before Telesco got on board. Mm-hmm. Telesco, if you hear AP talk about it, they asked him, have you ever met Telesco before the interview process? No, my first time was the interview. Yeah. So Telesco had an interview, one of the final round of interviews, and that was the first time AP met Telesco. So that's their relationship. They don't have one. It's a work in progress. And you mentioned so many different things that, maybe, AP's learning on a job. Like he did a whole lot of talking, which, it came back to bite him a little bit. But that being said, you mentioned, and people in the chat mentioned, you heard them talk about, oh, well, he wanted a quarterback, he wanted this, he wanted that. And there was a little bit of a disconnect because Telesco wasn't out there being aggressive and getting these guys. So they weren't on the same page, because I think AP knew that this year, how big this year is for him in order for him to stay long term. So he wanted to be super aggressive. Now that, and see, even that situation, that's all, man, I don't know, man. Look, we can Telesco had a solid first draft, but even that, like, why don't you pair him with another young GM, a GM where, both of them, and I thought
Champ and Telesco were both going to be working.
Yeah, or Ed Dodds. We heard. I was loving the idea of having Ed Dodds and Champ in the building. I'm like, oh, that'd have been. I like that. You know what I mean? You got two young minds in the game, and then you got you guys. And Ed Dodds comes from a regime like the Colts, who are aggressive. They will get their guy. I like that. But then Telesco, he's not that guy. And I think whoever Mark trusts, whoever Mark was confiding in, he thought it was a good idea to get a guy like Telesco with a whole lot of experience and pair it with a AP who he never met, never had a relationship with, who's super aggressive and wants to go after whatever he wants with Telesco. And so far, it's kind of been a mixed bag, to say the least.
Yeah. Severe, you wanna chime in on that real quick? Do you think there's a disconnect between Telesco and AP going into, even now? Is there a disconnect, do you believe?
I mean, there should be some. I mean, there's naturally going to be some disagreement, right? Like we saw, like what we had before, where the lines between head coach and GM were too blurred, where whatever the head coach wanted is kind of what went, even if it was against the better judgment of the GM. We had that dynamic set up with John Gruden and Mike Mayock, and we had that dynamic set up with Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. Even though, however the dynamic was supposed to go, we know that's not exactly how it was. Even though Mark Davis said, hey, he's supposed to be the GM, he's supposed to be making these decisions, that's not how it went. So now we actually have a situation where our head coach is the head coach and our GM is the GM. And we want to say there's a disconnect. Well, there shouldn't be a perfect connection. That's why you have these essentially these board meetings. Everybody comes together, they debate these ideas, they figure out what direction they want to go, and when they figure out that direction, then they move on one accord. I think that the issue is that we don't know if Tom Telesco is good at evaluating the quarterback position. People say, hey, he drafted Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert fell in his lap, right? Like if the Dolphins didn't draft Tua and they drafted Justin Herbert, then Tom Telesco would have drafted Tua. So we don't really know how good he is. We know that he took the next best available guy, and it so happened to be the better guy. So that's going to be interesting to see what he does there. I mean, he had a good draft this draft. for the first 3 picks. The last half of the draft outside of Glaze will kind of, the last half of the draft we'll kind of see. I mean, D-Cam, we don't know what we have in him yet. Tommy Eckenberg, he trash. MJ Devonshire, we don't know. Trey Taylor, we have hope for, but he had opportunities to get quarterback prospects late, whether that be some of the later round guys. And I know Spencer Rattler was a guy that I identified in the 5th round. Like, hey, take a chance on this guy. Like, even if he's not your guy, he's a talented guy. Take a chance on him instead of taking a chance on a limited athletically linebacker. Like, well, what do we need another unathletic linebacker for? Like, those guys are ubiquitous. Like, you could pick them out from every school, right? Get a quarterback that was once considered a top 10 pick in the late rounds. If he doesn't work, hey, we wasted a 5th round pick on him. Like, hey, no big deal. But we didn't go that direction. So I just think that, we talk about Jaden Daniels and what he's doing with Cliff Kingsbury. But if you ask Jaden Daniels who he wanted to play for, who would he have said he wanted to play for? For everything we're saying about AP, who would Jaden Daniels have wanted to pay for, right? We're talking about Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury failed with Kyler Murray. It wasn't because of Cliff Kingsbury, or it's not because of Cliff Kingsbury that Jaden Daniels is doing good. It's because of Jaden Daniels that Jaden Daniels is doing good, right? Cliff Kingsbury just happened to put in the system around him that works. He put in that same system around Kyler Murray and had a mixed bag. So I think that, like I said, there's X's and O's and there's Jimmys and Joes. And if you have the right guys on the roster, they can make things work. And we don't have the right guys on the roster. And Cliff Kingsbury was a guy, he was so bad in NFL, he couldn't get a college head coaching job. He couldn't get a college offensive coordinating job. He had to go down to college and be a quarterback's coach. So don't forget that. So don't think he's some guy he's not a guy that when he first came into the league, he didn't have a whole bunch of connections either. He's a guy that's an offensive coordinator in college, had under I forgot my guy's name that passed away. That was up in Washington. I forget, but he was, a matter of fact, he was what's the guy's name? I forget his name. But then he went to Texas Tech. He wasn't really good there. His claim to fame was he had Patrick Mahomes. That was his thing. But he couldn't win in college with Patrick Mahomes, right? So he had a losing record in college, but because he's a young, offensive, innovative mind, they hired him in Arizona. He didn't do well there. He couldn't get another job anywhere else until Lincoln Riley hired him as the quarterback's coach, and then now he's back in the NFL, and he's doing well right now. But I think he's doing well right now because of Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
I think
Levi says, go ahead, Pharaoh.
No, I think it's a combination. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury as a coach worked out well. I think early on when we heard about Kyler Murray, especially, I thought it was interesting that they had to put in his contract that you have to study game film at least a few times a week. I'm like, what? I'm not sure, you know what I mean? I'm not like an expert of these contracts that these teams do, but like I felt like the fact that was put out there was crazy. And which says a lot about Murray. You know what I mean? People question him as a leader, people question him as a guy that could be a long-term answer with the Cardinals. It wasn't the talent, but that being said, I think there is a little bit of disconnect with AP. I really do, because and it's not because of AP, it's not because of Telesco, it's because someone thought it was a good idea to put both of them together. Like, hey, look, if one guy's aggressive, I want to put an aggressive GM with them. You know what I mean? Because
Kelly would have been that guy at the least. You know,
Champ seemed to work well. I mean, I thought he made some moves in season to help the team. You know, Jack Jones, I think might have been more of a Champ, not a Champ Kelly, but like an AP move. But But Champ and AP were collaborating together on that and made that move happen. Yeah. Now, you know, is it something where I'm over here. I know I'm not trying to make something out of nothing with the disconnect. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of obvious that Telesco is a little bit more conservative. You know, he takes the long range approach. He's not super aggressive. He's not a guy that trades up a lot. But then you got AP who wants to make the moves, who wants to get their guy, and wants to talk all that. If you're talking like that, you better have someone in your corner that can back it up for you.
Damaha says, my biggest concern with Telesco is that fortune favors the brave. How brave is Tom? And to that point, being conservative. And the reason why I bring up the disconnect is I'm just hoping this disconnect isn't going into the 2025 offseason where they're going to be debating on quarterbacks, debating on free agents they want to target. I mean, that's why they have a war room. And like Severe said, that's why they have a meeting room too. Like they're going to disagree. They're not meant to agree on everything.
Yeah.
They're going to disagree. They're going to disagree on a lot of moves that the AP wants to make. And Telesco's not going to agree with it. Telesco's going to want to make moves that AP's not going to, agree with. But this is why they have to. I know we're saying there probably is a disconnect, but that's probably one area you got to try to meet in the middle somehow. Like,
yeah.
But drafting Jaden Daniels, I think AP needed to realize that was a pipe dream. Because there was no way Washington was going to move out, and plus you're trying to move from 13 to 2. I think Telesco is like, I'm trying to play safe. You know how much I'll have to mortgage for the number 2 overall pick, right. And again. Jaden Daniels is killing it in Washington. Would he kill it with Luke Getsy? I mean, Cliff Kingsbury probably be here if you had a plan to go get Jaden Daniels. But how can you promise Cliff Kingsbury, hey, we're going to try, keyword try, to go get Jaden Daniels? Will Washington play ball? I said it numerous times. Washington wasn't trading out. Anyone could offer them 5 firsts, but they weren't trading out to possibly get their franchise quarterback. They were in the same position as we were. At least with the quarterback position, they were not going to trade out. Like that probably for them would have been organization malpractice to trade out and miss out on a quarterback. But with that being said, you guys, we are going to just reel it back in. Amazing show. This is by far. I'm glad Severe and Pharaoh are here to hear this. This is my longest live show that I've ever done. So we need to do this some more because I'm not gonna lie. I love the conversations we had tonight. I love what we brought up, some of our opinions. You guys, if you guys love what you guys seen here, subscribe to everyone's channel. I'm gonna start with Pharaoh. Pharaoh, where can the people find you at?
I mean, you can find me all over social media, PharoahNFL, PharoahNFL, like it says on the screen. Most importantly, YouTube, PharoahNFL, like I said. Also, make sure to check out 5050shop.printify.me as you see it on the screen, where you can get your latest gear, Raiders gear, 5050 gear, all that good stuff. Definitely check that out. Hey, it's getting a little chilly, man. You can get your hoodies over there, man. We got some nice hoodies. And also follow us on Around the Shield on IG and X. Definitely check us out on there, where you hear memes, clips of our podcast, Raider updates, all that stuff. Go ahead and check us out and give us a follow there. And yeah, man, we do a show every Tuesday, 50-50 show tomorrow. We're going to have a good show lined up tomorrow, as well as this Friday Around the Shield with Severe and Big Mike.
All right. Definitely gonna tune in myself. Severe, where can the nation find you at, man? Where can these people find you at?
It's good, man. You already know what it is. The Severe Raider, like it says on the screen, IG, X, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, all over the place. Make sure y'all sub. My guy Pharaoh already shouted out the 50-50 show, as well as Around the Shield, Tuesday night. Pharaoh's on time. And Friday night. I'll make sure I keep some hats next to me in case you want to do it. I got to do a sword.
I did not. That was not planned at all. Like I just, I got like, hey, we all know Severe is, he got the red hat down. And I was like, let me put this on. Right. As soon as I look on the screen, so here you caught it instantly. I was like, oh damn, but that was funny for sure.
Yeah. Sure. I was like, hey, I was really like, man, I should have had a red and black Raider hat, man. We would have all been matching.
Shout out to Queen, man. She got me bad, man. She was
she got both of us. That was shots fired to both of us.
Yeah. Thank you guys for again, for you guys pulling up, thanks to the chat. I mean, this show is nothing without the chat. Queen has a question. Why'd you change Pharaoh? Oh man, but like I said,
she said cute. She said one of my you know what I mean, pet peeves, right? Cute. That's cute.
Shout out to the chat. Like I said, I always say this after every show. These shows are nothing without the nation coming into the chat, sharing their opinion, sharing their comments in. Every comment is welcome, whether you disagree with us, whether you agree with us, whether you're telling Severe need to calm down, whatever the case may be. We love y'all. We love y'all. And I love everyone on the panel on here. Hope blessings for you guys. And I hope Around the Shield, the 50-50 podcast, I hope all those shows start popping off, man, in coming weeks. Thank you guys for pulling up again. Yep. And where you can find Raiders Primos, so you guys are tuning in, Raiders Primos on YouTube. Search us on IG at Raiders Primos and on X. Stay updated with our content. We post on Instagram anytime we're going live. That's where the notification will be sent. We also post Raiders news. So if you love everything Raiders news and you want to be up to date with it, give us a follow. Hit that subscribe button. Cost you guys nothing. And again, I want to say appreciate to all the veterans that tuned in tonight and all the veterans that didn't tune in. I hope they're having an amazing, amazing Veterans Day. And chat, love y'all. It's been a real fun show. But yeah, we're going on to 2 hours. We got to wrap this up. I love y'all. Y'all have an amazing rest of your night.
Ed, we got to get you on, bro. We got to get you on soon, man. We got to get you on the 50-50 show for sure, bro.
Oh, definitely. Let me know. Let me know, and I'll plan for it. I already got my setup. The laptop's already set up. Camera's already set up. So
all right. We gonna make it happen.
I just got to come in here, turn on the laptop.
Hey, look. It's the Raiders. Hey, look. We all know what's gonna happen the second half of the season. We're gonna be doing a whole lot of collabs. So I'm just letting y'all know, man. Shout out to everybody watching. We're gonna be doing a whole lot of collabs. Yeah.
We do. We need some. Hey, we need more to talk about than just we lost again.
Right.
But yeah, y'all have a good night. Blessed. Have a blessed rest of your Monday, and also you might see Raider Ed, Raiders Primos on the 50-50 podcast. So go follow Pharaoh, go follow Severe, and you might see me popping up over there. Have a good night. Love y'all. We out of here.